At the height of the feud, T and his camp were standing tall, feeling untouchable. With their #1 hit on the charts, it seemed like they had won the battle. But what if I told you this wasn't the end? What if the real fight was only just beginning? Stay tuned, because this drama is about to take a wild turn. At the peak of the tension, T and his camp appeared unfazed, standing confidently with victory seemingly in their hands. "We got the #1 song in the country, man. Let them know," someone from the camp said, pride evident in their voice. By all accounts, they had come out on top in the rap battle. Their music was dominating the charts, their presence was undeniable, and their message resonated far and wide. For a moment, it seemed like they had not only won the battle, but also secured their place at the top of the hip-hop world. The world was watching, and T's camp basked in the glow of success, believing they had silenced their critics and rivals. But as the saying goes, they might have won the battle, but they haven't won the war. What T and his crew didn't realize was that the war wasn't just about who could release the hottest track or make the most noise on social media. The war was a much deeper, more personal conflict, one that would take a twist they never saw coming. The battle for dominance in the rap world was only the surface, and the true stakes were about to become painfully clear. The war, it turned out, was far from over. Then 50 Cent dropped a bombshell, an explosive move that threatened to change everything. He unleashed a teaser for a documentary that would shine a harsh light on T and his wife, Tiny. The first episode was leaked, bringing with it an overwhelming wave of controversy. Over 20 sexual assault allegations against the couple were put front and center, and suddenly the battle over who ruled the rap scene seemed trivial. This wasn't just a rap feud anymore, it was about the unraveling of their public personas. It was a game-changing moment, one teaser, one leak, and the entire landscape shifted. The consequences of the leak were immediate and devastating. T and Tiny had spent years cultivating their image, building their empire, and in a matter of hours, everything was at risk. This is how it all spiraled into a mess of accusations, personal attacks, and a full-blown media war. The catalyst for this dramatic shift, 50 Cent's deliberate threat. In early March 2026, 50 Cent made a calculated move, one that would alter the course of the entire confrontation. He posted and then quickly deleted a screenshot on Instagram announcing the arrival of a documentary titled Surviving T and Tiny. The caption referenced 20 sexual assault cases involving T and his wife, Tiny. It wasn't a mere rumor or gossip. It was a direct accusation, a cold reminder of the allegations that had followed the couple for years. The fact that 50 Cent had chosen to bring these allegations into the public eye in the form of a documentary was more than a mere challenge, it was a declaration of war. 50 Cent's decision to post and delete the screenshot wasn't just about getting attention. It was about testing the waters, seeing who would bite, and gauging the level of response. T's camp immediately understood what this meant. 50 Cent had a history of turning his threats into reality, of turning a mere social media post into a full-blown media spectacle. When he pointed his cameras at someone, it was never kind, and the result was often public destruction. It wasn't about the documentary being finished, at least not yet. The screenshot, the brief announcement, wasn't a completed episode. It was a preview, a statement of intent. It was a chilling message designed to rattle T and Tiny, one that had weight and depth. The people who saw the post knew exactly what was coming. They had witnessed 50 Cent execute similar tactics in the past, and they understood the power of his media playbook. In an instant, T's world was thrown into chaos. The real power behind the leak wasn't just the threat itself. It was the history that had led to this moment. T and 50 Cent weren't just two random rappers caught in a public feud. They had a history, one that stretched back nearly 2 decades. Their rivalry wasn't born overnight. It started as regional competition, New York versus Atlanta, each city vying for dominance in the rap world. But as time passed, the animosity deepened. It grew personal. In 2008, 50 Cent accused T of being a snitch after T's arrest in October 2007. T had been caught attempting to purchase machine guns and silencers, facing up to 10 years in prison. It was a serious charge, one that could have ruined his career and life. But somehow T only served 1 year in prison, a sentence that many saw as too lenient given the severity of his crime. This disparity didn't sit well with 50 Cent. He couldn't understand how someone could be caught with such dangerous weapon and walk away with such a light sentence. It stung him, and he couldn't let it go. On a G-Unit track, 50 Cent rapped, "Get knocked with 10 machine guns, only get 12 months, oh don't talk to me." That line stuck to T like a shadow, haunting him for years. It wasn't just a rap lyric, it was a reminder, an accusation that refused to die. It was a public mark on his character, one that he couldn't easily erase. The rivalry, however, stayed relatively quiet throughout the 2000s, lying dormant as both men focused on their respective careers. T continued to release successful albums and build his empire, while 50 Cent expanded into acting, business ventures, and producing. For years, the beef seemed like a distant memory, buried beneath the weight of their success. But as the 2020s approached, something changed. T, feeling emboldened by his continued success, began pushing for a versus battle, hoping to publicly settle the long-standing feud with 50 Cent. 50 Cent, however, wasn't interested in the versus. He dismissed the idea every time it came up, brushing it aside as nothing more than a publicity stunt. Then in February 2026, during Super Bowl weekend, T made a bold move. He appeared on the Nightcap podcast and made a shocking claim. He said that 50 Cent had initially agreed to the Versus battle but had backed out at the last minute, refusing to go through with it. T claimed that 50 was too afraid to face him in a battle, that he was ducking the smoke. That was the spark that reignited the fire. 50 Cent responded the only way he knew how, not with music first, but with social media. He took to Instagram as always to continue the psychological warfare. He posted an old clip of T's Crime Stoppers PSA, a public service announcement where T had appeared in 2008, urging the public not to get involved in crime. 50 Cent used that clip to reignite the snitch narrative, reminding the world of T's past. It was a calculated move designed to paint T as a hypocrite, someone who preached against crime while simultaneously getting caught up in it. That, however, was just the beginning. On February 22, 2026, 50 Cent posted an unflattering image of T's wife, Tiny Harris, on Instagram. The image was chosen or edited to make her appear less than flattering, and the caption mocked her appearance. It was a personal attack aimed directly at the heart of T's family. This move marked a turning point, one that would forever change the course of their feud. T's son King Harris wasted no time in responding. He immediately took to Instagram Live, delivering a fiery rant that took the drama to an entirely new level. "You want to say something about my mama?" he shouted, his voice full of rage. "Your mama dead as expletive, go dig her up." King Harris knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't just defending his mother, he was striking at 50 Cent's most painful wound. 50 Cent's mother, Sabrina Jackson, had been murdered in 1984 when 50 was only 8 years old. King, aware of this, continued his assault. "Post a picture of your expletive mama," he taunted. "She dead, pay respect." It was a calculated, cruel strike, a deep wound aimed directly at 50 Cent's heart. The tone wasn't one of sorrow or sadness. It was a threat, an attack, and the world was watching as it unfolded. The following day, February 24, 2026, T posted a video of himself dancing with his own mother. "Happy birthday, mama," the caption read, accompanied by one of his diss tracks playing in the background. It was a deliberate move, flaunting his living mother as a stark contrast to 50 Cent, who had lost his mother so many years ago. It was a direct shot, a public display of familial love that amplified the tension. By 2020 and 2021, T was eager to reignite the flames of his rivalry with 50 Cent. He pushed for Versus Battle, the highly publicized platform where artists settle their rap rivalries by exchanging their best tracks back-to-back. It was the perfect way for T to challenge 50 Cent publicly, to showcase his own catalog of hits and reassert his place at the top. But 50 Cent wasn't interested. He brushed off every attempt, refusing to engage. T's challenge seemed to be nothing more than an annoyance to 50, who had long grown tired of this old feud. But then, in February 2026, during Super Bowl weekend, T made a bold and shocking claim that would reignite the flame. Appearing on the Nightcap podcast, T revealed that 50 Cent had actually agreed to the Versus battle at first, only to back out at the last minute. T accused 50 of running scared, calling his decision to back out a sign of cowardice. For T, this was the spark he needed. It was the opening salvo in what he hoped would be a public humiliation of his rival. T saw this as his moment to remind everyone that, despite 50 Cent's dominance in the past, he was still a force to be reckoned with. But what T didn't anticipate was how 50 Cent would respond. True to his form, 50 Cent didn't meet T's challenge with music. Instead, he went straight to social media, weaponizing controversy as his tool of choice. His response was calculated and deliberate. He resurrected an old Crime Stoppers PSA that T had filmed years ago, a public service announcement aimed at discouraging crime. This PSA had long been a sore spot for T, as it was often used by his critics to label him a snitch. For 50 Cent, it was the perfect opportunity to bring up old wounds, reminding the world of the accusations that had followed T for years. The snitch narrative, which had haunted T since his legal troubles, was now front and center again, all thanks to 50's calculated social media post. But that was just the beginning. On February 22, 2026, 50 Cent raised the stakes even higher. He posted an unflattering image of T's wife, Tiny Harris, on Instagram. The photo, which had been edited to make her appear less than flattering, was paired with a mocking caption that ridiculed her appearance. It was a deeply personal attack, one that went beyond the usual rap beefs and struck at the very heart of T's family. This wasn't just about music anymore. This was about personal humiliation, and it changed the entire trajectory of the conflict. The feud had now escalated from a war of words and music into something much darker. T's son, King Harris, wasn't about to stand by and let his family be disrespected. He immediately took to Instagram Live, unleashing an emotional and inflammatory response. "You want to say something about my mama?" King raged, his voice filled with anger. "Your mama dead as expletive, go dig her up." King knew exactly where to strike. 50 Cent's mother, Sabrina Jackson, had been murdered in 1984 when 50 was just 8 years old. King, fully aware of this painful fact, pushed the button that would hurt the most. He wasn't just going after 50 Cent's reputation or his career, he was going after his deepest pain. "Post a picture of your expletive mama," King taunted. "She dead, pay respect." It was a calculated strike, one that aimed straight for the emotional core, a wound that 50 had carried with him for decades. And King didn't hesitate. King continued, "How y'all raised?" he said. "I'm not like that. I don't go after a man's mama." In that moment, King framed his actions as retaliation. He was simply responding to the disrespect 50 Cent had thrown at his own mother. To King, this wasn't just an attack, it was payback. It was a defense of his family's honor, and in his eyes, he was merely returning fire for fire. It was a bold, dangerous move, but one that reflected the depth of the anger and hurt within T's camp. The intensity of King's words took the drama to an entirely new level. What had started as a rap feud, a public back and forth between two rival artists, had transformed into something much more personal and painful. The stakes had never been higher, and both sides were now fully entrenched in the fight. It was clear that this wasn't just a battle of music anymore. It was about family, pride, and unresolved grudges. 50 Cent had fired the first shot with his online attacks, but King Harris had just raised the ante, ensuring that the war between the two families would only continue to escalate. The tone wasn't one of grief or sorrow. It wasn't about mourning or loss. It was a warning, a threat, a declaration that no one was safe and the consequences were about to be severe. The world watched, captivated, as the drama unfolded on social media. T's son, King Harris, had crossed a line, striking at the core of 50 Cent's most painful memories, forcing everyone to acknowledge that the situation had escalated far beyond the usual rap rivalry. The very next day, February 24, 2026, T responded in his own signature style. He posted a video of himself dancing with his mother, his face radiating joy. The caption read, "Happy birthday, Mama," while one of his diss tracks played in the background. It was a calculated and deliberate act meant to send a sharp message to 50 Cent. It was a reminder of the things 50 had lost. T still had a mother to celebrate, while 50 Cent's mother had been taken from him years ago. It was a public display of love, but also a way to flaunt his familial ties in the face of 50 Cent's attack. In that single post, T symbolically and provocatively showed the world that while one side had nothing left, the other still had everything to fight for. But T's son wasn't done yet. Demani Harris, T's 24-year-old son and an artist in his own right, joined the battle by releasing his own diss track on February 27, 2026, titled Ms. Jackson. The track focused solely on the art of rap, keeping the conflict about music and lyrics rather than sinking into the realm of personal attacks. Demani's message was clear. He was standing by his family, but he wasn't willing to descend into the gutter. His music spoke for him, and it kept the feud in the space where it belonged, the rap game. But while Demani kept it musical, King Harris took things to an entirely different level. In a shocking move, he wore a t-shirt featuring a photo of 50 Cent's deceased mother, Sabrina Jackson, mocking her appearance and her tragic death. It wasn't just a move to hit 50 Cent where it hurt. It was an act of complete disregard for the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in the rap world. This was the breaking point for many. The hip-hop world began to shift its view as the situation had clearly gone too far. The rules of the game, the unwritten code of conduct between rappers, had been breached. Some saw King's actions as an unforgivable betrayal of those rules. A line had been crossed, and the consequences of that decision were now hanging in the balance. As the stakes kept rising, it became clear that 50 Cent's next move would not be a diss track. It would be something far more damaging. It was a calculated and ruthless step. He had something bigger planned. The leak came, a chilling threat of a documentary that promised to expose everything. Surviving T and Tiny was no longer a mere joke or a social media stunt. It had evolved into a calculated move designed to drag the darkest chapters of T's life into the unforgiving light of the public eye. The warning signs were clear, and the public understood exactly what this meant. They had seen it all before. 50 Cent had executed this strategy with devastating precision in the past, and the fallout for those on the receiving end had been catastrophic. The seeds of this documentary were planted back in January 2021 when the first sexual assault allegations against T and Tiny surfaced publicly. It all began with Sabrina Peterson, an entrepreneur and former friend of the couple. She publicly accused T of threatening her with a gun during a 2009 incident. Her accusation opened a floodgate, one that no one could have anticipated. Within days, Peterson revealed that she had received messages from over 30 individuals, all with similar stories about T and Tiny. These were not isolated incidents. They were accounts of drugging, coercion, and sexual assault that spanned over a decade. From 2005 to 2018, these allegations were consistent and chilling. What started as one accusation soon turned into a cascade of similar claims, each one painting a darker picture of the couple's behavior. By March 2021, attorney Tyrone A. Blackburn had publicly represented 11 accusers, 8 women who alleged direct sexual assault by T, Tiny, or their associates, and 3 others with related claims. The details of these accusations were horrifying. Women claimed they were invited to parties or hotels only to be drugged, often with MDMA, and then subjected to non-consensual acts. One woman recounted how in 2010, T and Tiny forced her to take drugs and engage in sex at a hotel, where she was unable to consent. Another woman claimed she was drugged and raped by T and one of his male associates in a hotel room during the same year. These weren't just rumors whispered in dark corners of the internet. They were serious, detailed accounts of abuse, ones that would have far-reaching consequences for the couple's public image and reputation. This was the material that 50 Cent now had in his hands, and it was powerful. The allegations had been sitting in the public record for years, but they hadn't gained much traction. Now, 50 Cent was threatening to bring those allegations to the forefront, putting them on screen for millions of people to see. Winning a diss track battle and surviving the public fallout from a documentary built around such serious allegations were two entirely different challenges, and 50 Cent knew how to win in both arenas. By March 2021, attorney Tyrone A. Blackburn had taken on a powerful case, representing 11 accusers, including 8 women who alleged that T. Tiny or their associates had directly assaulted them, as well as 3 others who made related claims. These accusations were not rumors or whispers hidden in obscure gossip columns. They were direct, specific, and consistent, each one telling a similar story of abuse. The details were chilling. The women were reportedly invited to parties or hotels, where they were given drinks laced with drugs, including MDMA, and then subjected to non-consensual sexual acts. One woman described an experience from 2010 in which T and Tiny allegedly forced her to take drugs and engage in sexual activities at a hotel, where she was unable to consent due to the drugs. Another woman shared her account of how she was drugged and raped by T and a male associate in a hotel room during the same year. These were not vague rumors, they were detailed accounts, supported by credible sources and statements that painted a horrifying picture. This was the kind of material that 50 Cent now had at his disposal, and it was nothing short of explosive. The allegations had been lingering in the public eye for years, but now 50 Cent had the chance to amplify them and bring them into the mainstream spotlight. He didn't just have tabloid gossip, he had credible accounts, serious claims backed by real evidence, and he wasn't afraid to use it. 50 Cent's next move was no longer just about rap battles or diss tracks, it was about bringing these allegations to the masses. He wasn't just aiming to embarrass T with a diss track, he was threatening to build a documentary around these serious accusations. Surviving a diss track battle was one thing, T had been through that before, but surviving a documentary centered on allegations of sexual assault was an entirely different battle. This wasn't just about musical superiority, it was about reputation, about public perception, and about the kind of lasting damage that could be caused by exposing such dark, damaging claims to the world. The stakes had never been higher. The documentary, if it came to fruition, would not only air these allegations to the public, but could also lead to a deeper unraveling of the couple's carefully crafted image. T and Tiny had built an empire over the years, but now it was in jeopardy, hanging by a thread as 50 Cent stood poised to take aim at everything they had worked for. Now that you know how far this feud has come, where do you think it's headed? Will T and 50 Cent's rivalry destroy them both, or will one come out victorious in the end? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you're enjoying the ride, and make sure to subscribe for more in-depth breakdowns of this wild drama. The story isn't over yet, stick with us for the next chapter.